Of all the absolutely incredible amps that we have in our Line 6 Helix and HX Stomp, I would have to say that the model of the VOX AC30 Top Boost, otherwise known as the Essex A30 in the Helix, could be one of the most iconic amps. It's heard on many records, used by many of the world's top players, and has a very unique, distinct sound to it. Today, in this episode of Helix Amps Revisited, I am going to take a very close look at that amp model, and we're going to dial in a single snapshot preset. I'm going to have this preset available at my website at the link below. This snapshot is going to be very similar to one of the 4 snapshots in my Line 6 Marketplace Essex A30 Ultimate preset, which I'll also have at the link below. If you like what you hear today, you can go to the Marketplace and grab that full-blown preset, which is going to have a full array of effects, multi-snapshots, dialed in just perfectly. And it's a preset I've used many times for sessions and even for some live playing. And later in the video, I'm going to play you an audio demo, actually a video demo, of the utilization of those multi-snapshots with effects and whatnot from my Essex A30 Ultimate preset from the Line 6 Marketplace. I'm going to use those all together in a mix so you can kind of hear what the various snapshots with and without effects dialed in just the way it is with no other processing, how it all works together with a rhythm section. So I hope you guys enjoy that a little later. But for now, let's dive right over to HX Edit and take a look and see what I did with this particular preset. All right, so here you see we have the JS Essex A30 preset. Going to look very familiar. I'm using my standard template just to get started. As I mentioned, this is a very stripped back version of my full-blown Essex A30 Ultimate preset available at the Line 6 Marketplace. So the links are below for both this free preset we're going to put together today and for the full-blown preset. So starting at the end of the chain, I have my standard LA Studio comp, a very typical settings, peak reduction of 5, gain of 5. What I'm aiming for here is nothing overt, as I've said a million times, but some people don't seem to get it. I see a lot of comments about this. That LA Studio comp at the end destroys the tone. If it's destroying the tone, then you're not using it correctly. You have to set it correctly. So it's just giving you a tiny little bit of gain reduction. I'm going to aim for no more than 3 dB, and that's even going to be a lot. As far as gain reduction goes, I'm actually probably going to aim sometimes for this to be doing half a dB, 1 dB, 1.5 dB, but I'm going to use my ears to dial that in. So that's set up as you see it here. I have my parametric EQ, which again, as often isn't being used for anything at all other than low and high cuts, low cut at 100 Hertz, high cut at 10 kilohertz. Why do I have it here? Again, as I've mentioned many times before, I have it there just in case I need to make an on-the-fly tweak later on. I don't have to pull a block out. I could just use the low and high shelf EQ, but I don't have to pull a block out. I can just kind of come in here and make tweaks if I need it. But a lot of times I don't even need it. But it's for the small amount of processing power that it's eating up, I like to have it in there. I have my dynamic ambience reverb. Since this was introduced recently in a firmware update, it's been my absolute favorite for just the basic idea of making things sound a little more like they're just in a room without an overt reverb on it. So I really like this reverb a lot. Room size of 12 meters. I love that shape control all the way up at late 100, mix at 40%. Low and high shelf EQ. As I often do, I set both the low and high frequencies at 650 Hertz. What this block does is allows me to shape that tone in a very quick, intuitive manner. Sometimes I don't use it at all. I like to have it on a foot switch so I can flip it in and out if I don't need it. But I'm also using it, and again, not in a really overt way. Plus 2 dB to all the frequencies. Remember, this is a shelf EQ. All the frequencies above 650 Hertz, minus 2 dB to all the low frequencies below 650 Hertz. And what I find is that this just helps everything to be able to be shaped into a mix. And you'll hear it later in the full audio mix that I showcase this preset in, that it just helps it to sit nicely with the drums, kick drum, bass guitar, and whatnot. So I'll give you some examples of how we can use it later on to turn it on and off, or just to make subtle adjustments here to shape your sound. But the fact that it's there, it gives us a very quick, intuitive way to be able to shape our tone. For the cab, I used one of our new to firmware 3.50 212 Bluebell 121 ribbon on a cap edge, a very popular mic for me to use in a very popular setting. Then I'll use this distance control to kind of control how much boominess, let's call it, is, or a fullness is in the sound. And here I used a distance of 4 inches, did not angle it, it's at 0 degrees. And because I did my low and high cuts over here, I'm not touching those in the cab. Now, onto the amp, I have the drive at 5.2. Since this is kind of a push sound, that's what I call my edge of breakup style tones. Bass at 5.1. The cut control is very important. I'll show you why in just a moment. But the bass control at 5.1, cut at 2.9. It's going to allow us to decide how the high end of that amp is going to behave. Treble at 4.6, presence at 0, channel volume at 8.5, master at 10, and the deeper functions are 5s across the board. Okay, so let's turn everything off here and just go with the amp and the cab. And that's going to sound like this. I am playing my Gibson Les Paul Standard 60. Obviously very dry because we don't have any sort of ambience in there. Nothing wrong with that tone, though. I love the sound of that ribbon mic. But it could be improved a little bit to work in a mix and just to get it closer to what I would like to hear. Now, about this cut control. We have this at 2.9 at the moment, but watch what happens when I go to extremes with this. It really cuts a lot of that sparkle and high end, which can get out of control on this amp if we're not careful. We go all the way to the other extreme. And then we can go back to the setting that I decided on. So that can be a very powerful control. Now, with this guitar, you might say that the cut sounds really good. But now if I was to grab maybe a Tele style guitar, here I have my Sir Classic T in the bridge position. You might see why I chose this setting. I really like that setting, but that control can be extremely important getting this amp model working in the way that we want. All right, so now let's go over to the end, and I'll switch back to the Les Paul in a moment, but let's go over to the end here. We'll add in our compressor. Hopefully you can hear how it just kind of swishes things a bit, but not in an overt way. Because it's working on the after amp signal, it's going to react different than if we were feeding the direct guitar signal into it. Okay, we'll bring our low and our high cuts in. Very subtle, but something I like. We'll bring in our dynamic ambience. On the neck pickup. All right, now we're going to come to our final element here, our low and high shelf. Now, I like the sound the way it is. I add this in. Just controls that low end a bit. That's on the bridge pickup still. Neck pickup. So I was really liking the way that that turned out. Now, again, you know, if you find this too much, we can actually make little adjustments to this where maybe we move those just to 1 dB each. Or maybe opposite directions on them. Gives us a very nice way to be very flexible with our tone and to be able to shape things in a really intuitive manner. But I settled, as you're going to hear in the mix, it works quite nicely on the plus and minus 2 dB on the low and high shelf. The high at +2, the low at -2. Go back to the Les Paul and give that a listen so you can kind of hear what it sounds like with that as well. Neck pickup. You'll notice it worked nicely on a Tele style guitar, both on bridge and neck, on a Les Paul, both on bridge and neck. And a lot of the decisions I'm making, mic choice, high and low shelf, amp settings, are designed to get these presets to work in as many possible situations as we can get them to. So different guitars, different mixes and whatnot. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have to make any tweaks to it, but that's why I like to add things like the low and high shelf EQ in, so that it allows you to be able to very, as I mentioned, intuitively shape the tone. All right, so there you have it. There is the sound of that single snapshot. Again, available at the link below. Another link below is for the full-blown Essex A30 Ultimate Line 6 Marketplace preset, which is going to be very similar to this snapshot with a full array of effects and multiple snapshots all the way from clean up to a lead tone. So if you like what you heard today, you might want to think about going over and grabbing that preset at the Line 6 Marketplace. If you want to hear what all of the various presets with the effects and whatnot built into the preset sound like in a mix, this is what that sounds like. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that little video demo. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy the presets. Again, as I've mentioned a bunch of times already, the free preset is at a link below at my website, and you can also go to the other link below to the Line 6 Marketplace preset if you want to go grab the full featured preset version of this amp model. So thank you guys so much for sharing your time with me. Really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed the demo, and I hope you enjoyed the presets. Please like the video and share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for sharing your time with me. Ciao for now.